Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Debbie Anderson. I'm here to help you on your path to healing from narcissistic abuse with science, education, and spirituality. So today I'd like to talk with you about the possibility of you suffering from narcissistic abuse in your relationship. And here are 8 signs that might give you some idea if it's in fact what's happening with you. So like me, you may not be sure whether or not you're suffering in a narcissistically abusive relationship, and you're not alone. I was exactly in the same boat. I had absolutely no clue. I was even in an abusive relationship for many years. And apparently this is quite common since I've been doing my research and talking with other people that have been in a similar situation. The confusion and the cognitive dissonance, which is a mental conflict that occurs when a person's behaviors and the beliefs don't align with each other, that goes with the abuse. And this can have a lot to do with why it is very common to be confused. So here are 8 signs which I would have appreciated reading when I was trying to understand what was wrong in my life. And they'll help you and let you know whether or not you're suffering from an abusive relationship, or at least give you some idea of where you might stand in your relationship. So by the time you've become aware of these signs, it's quite a serious situation. Unfortunately, if you don't get some clarity in the relationship or what's going on in your life and start making some changes to protect yourself, it's going to get worse, unfortunately, as it did for me. So for those of you who are going through abuse again, or if you suffered abuse during your childhood, it will help to look at your relationship and see if you're in an abusive relationship. The first step on my path was to learn if I was even in an abusive relationship and what that even looks like. I know it sounds absurd. I consider myself to be fairly intelligent, but the narcissistic abuser is very good at what they do, which is to pull you in to their web, I suppose. So the first sign is your relationship is not caring, sane, or kind. So it's important to be clear. Abusive relationships can be really confusing, and this happens when an abusive person will never be accountable and will blame you, in fact, and spin it back on you. And this means everything is wrong that you've done. It's all wrong, and they are not responsible for anything, either currently or in the future. This was, of course, my narcissistic partner. I needed to understand what inappropriate behavior even was. It can range from name-calling to actual physical abuse, lying, pathological and emotional abuse, and to having no regard for the person you care about or anything that belongs to you. If you're in a relationship with a person who repeats these inappropriate and out-of-bounds behaviors that are hurtful and violating, first of all, know that your inner self, your higher being, is always recording what is going on in your life. If this person makes no apologies or makes false apologies, if they blame you for their problems, if they have little care or no respect for your feelings, if they even begin to smear you to others and tell others that you're a bad person, and they claim they are victims, it is them who are the actual victim and that they're being abused. These are all I suppose, behaviors that an abuser can do. If these are what you're seeing in your relationship, then most likely he's a narcissist, and it means you are being abused, unfortunately. So the bottom line is people are who they are, and we're not going to change them. People either have a decent character or they don't. We are the ones who need to make a change for us to have any chance of a loving, healthy, and happy life. This means letting go of any connection to someone like this, healing ourselves by doing the inner work, and getting very clear about our own self-worth, self-love, boundaries, and how to build healthy, loving, responsible, and real relationships in the future is very important. A person who has these traits and characteristics like this simply does not have the resources to give us this, but we absolutely can. Here's a sign, a second sign that you're suffering from narcissistic abuse in your relationship. Number 2, you're dealing with immature behavior and give up pieces of yourself to comply. One of the hallmarks of narcissistic relationships is this person gets hell-bent out of shape on hairline triggers that mature adults usually don't get upset about. This was the behavior that I saw frequently in my narcissistic partner. He would go off absolutely crazy and angry and rage about nothing all the time, anytime, but always behind closed doors. They believe they should have preferential treatment and are even entitled and can be demanding, punishing, nasty, and volatile if they don't receive it. He would get angry with me if I did not look at him when he was talking to me, and would even stop the conversation and say, "Are you listening?" So you had to maintain complete eye contact with him at all times when he was talking. I found out that there are certain things I just couldn't normally talk about, or it would lead to an argument. He always had to be right and have his own way, and I tried doing things outside of my comfort zone and my values to stop this from happening, but of course it didn't. If I had listened to my inner self, I might have seen what was happening in our relationship, but I just wanted peace, and I thought if I could just make him happy, all would be well in our relationship and in our lives. But I was walking on eggshells most of the time, just trying to survive. The bottom line with this sign is nothing worked, and it doesn't matter what shape I twisted myself into. He was still not happy. Nothing I could do could ever make him happy, and it was not actually my job in the first place to make him happy. So your true purpose is to align with the truth of your soul, and then you will serve others and live in a healthy and holistic way. Not only are you being destroyed, but you're also hurting everyone who cares about you by staying with an abusive person like this, by staying with them and trying to please them. And you are allowing and in fact enabling this person to continue being an abuser with you. Number 3, another sign, you're confused, you're angry, and you're behaving in ways that you normally do not. I believe that a good indication that you're being narcissistically abused is seeing the inconsistency with how you feel when you're with this person compared to other people. I found in all my other relationships I could listen, I could have empathy, I could have integrity, I was capable of having normal and sane conversations, as well as I got along with them, and yet this is the one person who brought out the worst in me. My boundaries were being violated, and the usual modes of human operations were not operating. The crazy making circular conversations and arguments we would have made my head literally spin around in circles. We would go round and round and round in these discussions on unrelated topics and points that made no sense. I literally thought I was going stark raving mad. This was one of the tactics that my narcissistic partner used when he was confronted, or he would argue with me in order to manipulate me. Abusive people constantly make excuses for their behavior. They constantly repeatedly minimize an incident altogether. They're accusing everyone else of wrongdoing. They change the subject during conversations to confuse you with trivia or antics to take you off the subject. They use non-existent allies to back up their argument. They bring all kinds of past behavior you have done to justify their abusive behavior. It could be from 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 minutes ago. They claim that your accusations are disloyal, that you're being disloyal to them. And they state that you're crazy, and therefore all your observations about them are not credible. There is, of course, much more, but this gives you the idea. I felt I was constantly dodging his abuse, and the pain and the trauma and the frustration is beyond intense. So the bottom line with this sign is, this is super important. If you're enmeshed with a sick person, you get sick. If you're experiencing this type of behavior in a relationship, it's time to pull away and leave and heal. You may not be aware, but what you're doing is giving this person what they want, the significance and the drama of knowing they can pull you in and the effect that it has on you. This is called narcissistic supply. And you need to cut this relationship off to have any chance of getting your life back and your soul. Number 4 sign is you'll find yourself trying to prove that you're a good person. So, because the narcissist is regularly accusing you of all the things that they're doing, such as using people for their own gain and making it all about you and lacking integrity and love for people, naturally you'll be confused and very angry, trying extremely hard to prove and convince the narcissist differently. I remember feeling dismayed and even shocked at all the allegations regarding things I didn't do and wasn't even capable of doing, which is, as you know, what the narcissist actually does. So the bottom line here is the other way that narcissists can hook you in is to have us believe that our well-being, our safety, and our character and integrity is dependent on what other people think of us, making us very susceptible to this narcissistic behavior. To truly heal, we need to completely detach from other people who have warped versions of us and then heal from within to get to the solid place of knowing our true, authentic self. And it's vital that this happens. So when we are true to ourselves, our authentic self, our healthy self will follow, and our unhealthy part of us will not. Number 5, the sign is you're mopping up the messes. Being connected with a narcissist is lots of nasty edges, lots of drama, and this usually means that some mess is virtually lurking around the corner. Narcissists usually aren't good with sensitivity or accountability. They're always on the lookout for narcissistic supply and don't care about doing the right thing. This makes all kinds of things show up as a result of the narcissist's non-accountable and unacceptable behavior, which is always someone else's fault. Unfortunately, if you are connected with a narcissist, it's common that you're going to be sorting out their crap and drama, paying their fines. My narcissist partner had thousands of dollars in overdue parking tickets when I was with him, and then covering for them to cover their tracks. The bottom line, this is a typical behavior. This typical behavior for a narcissist is what happens when responsible, sensitive, and well-meaning people, like you and I, have them in our lives. Know that when they have sucked out all your resources, you will be discarded, tossed away, and the narcissist will then find someone else to suck dry. One of the greatest gifts of our recovery from narcissistic abuse is when we walk away from these abusive people, is when we learn how to be responsible for ourselves. People come into our lives who take responsibility for themselves then, and we stop the people who don't. We won't find ourselves having to constantly clean up after we walk away, heal, and restart our lives. Number 6, the sign is your boundaries are being disintegrated. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to stand up for yourself or hold boundaries in a narcissistic relationship. And when you attempt to do so, there are negative consequences. You are punched, criticized, rejected, and abandoned. I gradually changed my behavior by giving up trying to assert my needs in an attempt to reduce the chaos and the trauma that was happening when I did. I went from feelings of despair, helplessness, and powerlessness while I tried to beg for my boundaries to be respected. Of course, my narcissistic partner had absolutely zero empathy or understanding for me, and this did not happen, and it caused me to feel even more helpless. Bottom line, we're easy targets for narcissists if we have poor boundaries, but when we get away from them and start to heal and recover who we really are, our true self, we will be able to set healthy boundaries again. It isn't about other people invading our boundaries, it's about us knowing our truth, our values, our limits, and if someone can't respect that, they can't be a part of our lives, period. Number 7, the sign you feel disjointed and unhinged. There's a strange addiction that happens with narcissists called trauma bonding. You probably have heard about it. There are many reasons why this happens. So before you understand what's going on with you physiologically, meaning the cells in your literal body, which are hijacked 95% of your feelings, thoughts, and your nervous system, you may obsess and feel almost manic, unable to stop yourself from trying to contact or hook back up with the narcissist, even though you know how much you continually get hurt by doing so. It can be horrifying for us to see how addicted we are to someone who treats us so terribly. It makes no sense. When I first read this, I was so shocked that it's literally 10 times harder to get off a narcissist than heroin. After going through the horrifying narcissistic addiction myself, which caused unbelievable pain and suffering, I can see what they mean. Bottom line, it is of course a very serious situation when it gets to this stage where we simply can't talk ourselves out of doing things that we know are putting ourselves back into the fire to get burnt yet again. Deep inner healing in our subconscious mind and in other layers of our being is necessary to start shifting out the trauma and to be able to be one with our being, our inner being. Number 8, and the final sign is you are suffering abuse symptoms. Things are now very serious, and you don't know this. When our emotional inner being has been screaming out for our attention, and we have paid attention to it, but yet have not pulled away, we need to turn inwards in order to heal and to tend to our own soul. Then we can physically start to break down for our soul and wake up and fully get our attention. I felt unhappy and sad most of the time. It is common to feel symptoms of anxiety and depression and greater issues like post-traumatic stress disorder, issues with your adrenals, chronic fatigue syndrome, other disorders like anxiety and depression start to develop. You may lose interest in the people around you, activities you normally, took pleasure in, and looking after yourself, which used to give you energy, as the abusive person in your life takes up so much of your focus, attention, and energy. As we are stripped away more and more of our energy and our power and the attention, we become less and less. The pain and the shame become so overwhelming that we might not want to be around others. We might start hiding from the world, covering up, making excuses, lying to people, and this makes us feel even more isolated with our trauma and our feelings. Bottom line, how bad does it have to get before you wake up to the truth? I know of someone close to me who tried to kill herself because of the abuse she was suffering. Yet, after she went to the hospital and had treatment and had everyone in her life talking to her and telling her to leave this abusive partner, she went back to him after she left the hospital. If we stay, things get worse. If we leave and don't attend to our inner healing, things will get worse. It seems like a no-win situation, but it's not. Initially, I believed I gave up a lot by leaving the narcissist at the time. But when I came to realize that it allowed me to finally turn inward, giving me my greatest gains, so once again, I could be complete and whole. We can be in control of our choices and have the power to look after ourselves and create a truly happy, loving, and healthy life. In conclusion, so everyone is not a narcissist. There are people who have anger issues. They could be selfish or clueless, but they're not malignant narcissists. There are also varying degrees of narcissism. It's a spectrum of symptoms that go from mild to extreme. If someone in your life does not share your values and your beliefs and doesn't care about your feelings, then this is not a healthy relationship for you. Our job is not to change anyone else. It is to take care of our own self and our own needs and pull away, saying to them and ourselves, this is who I am and this is what I need to be in this relationship. The person that either steps up to the plate, and because they want to change, work on themselves and the relationship and meet us there, or they don't. If they don't, we need to love ourselves enough, regardless of who they are, to let them have their version of life for themselves, even if it's impossible and it's difficult and hard. It is, and it's not what we want. We need to pay attention to this. But the question is, are you complete and whole enough to walk away if they are not willing or able to be the person who treats you with respect, dignity, and the love you deserve? You can heal from your past. I have. You can heal from your trauma, your abuse, and step into your true self again. Or period. Gain your power and your confidence back regardless of what other people are doing or not doing. I have decided to dedicate my life to helping others to heal from their abuse, as I have done myself, healing with my inner work. It's hard to understand abuse at first. It's hard to explain to anybody who hasn't lived it and been in a relationship with a narcissistically abusive person. And it's very hard to take the steps to heal and free yourself from the past for good. Have a look at my step-by-step guide, which is here on the website, to finally heal from your narcissistic abuse. Please reach out to me. There are links below. Even if it's just to say hello, know that you're not alone, and others like myself have been through what you're going through. Take good care, and I wish you well on your path to healing.